जय गजानन। गणेशाय नमस्तुभ्यं। हेरम्बाय एकदन्तिने स्वानन्दवासिने तुभ्यं ब्रह्मणस्पतये नमः. So yesterday we were looking at the story of the Urdhvareta sons and the dialogue of Rishabha. Rishabha, who was the son of Agnidhara, Rishabha who got 100 sons. 100 sons. He had done penance and all, and he became a Brahma Bhuyatva with all the Brahmas, and then finally, when he attained Shivaloka, Sahaja Brahma, he was confused. He was not yet getting peace. So when he did not get peace, he prayed to Shiva, asking, "Give me that knowledge which will give me peace." So Shiva is narrating the whole story of Ganesha, all the Ganesh knowledge he gives, and Rishabha got initiated into the Ekakshara mantra of Ganesha. He did penance for a number of years, and he got Ganesh Sakshatkara. He saw Ganesha himself in front of him. He sang in praise of Ganesha. He installed an idol and started worshipping, doing the worship of Ganesha. Now, this Rishabha had 100 sons, right? So, this 100 sons, the eldest of them was Bharata. Now, this Rishabha, in his later stages, even after attaining peace, attaining the knowledge of Ganesha and all, he used to he used to practice a daily routine, a daily yoga routine, and that yoga routine was such that he used to have certain unusual behaviors. We have seen unusual behaviors of Datta Avduta also, where he purposely behaved like a madman, purposely did certain unusual things so that to keep people away. Yogis normally they do like these things. Like I've known that Swami Muktana, not Swami um, Muktananda's Swami Muktananda, Swami Muktananda's guru, I think. He used to sit on on one pile of dirt, so that nobody will ever come near him. For him, as a yogi, he's indifferent. He has become so detached from that, it didn't bother him. But then people, so just then when many devotees started coming to him, he built one hut, and people used to flock into that hut. That hut was also such a small kutia, so then he had to come out of that, and then then he started throwing stones at them. He used to keep a pile of stones and started throwing at whoever comes near that hut. He used to throw stones. So then they would keep, in order to keep them away from coming anywhere near him. So these yogis generally have all these kind of strange practices, unusual behavior. It is to keep. To protect their own privacy, or protect their own sadhana area and all of that. So this Rishabha also developed some unusual behaviors. And so this king is Bharata. Bharata, his son, is the eldest son, has become the king. He put him in prison. Now, Rishabha was corrupt and foolishly deviated from the path. So, inside the prison, now, when somebody puts you in prison, your freedom is restricted. So, then even if you don't have bad habits, you'll start developing bad habits. So the bad habits maybe because of that confinement of that company. So what he started, he became corrupt, and he foolishly deviated from the path of karma, and then he taught men, the people around him, to start behaving like animals, disregarding the rules of dharma, O Prajapati. And it is from this behavior that the path of Jainism developed. The path of Jainism had its origin here. So Bharata, who was following the path of karma, tried to keep it a secret, kept him under house arrest. But in Kali Yuga, every householder will accept, and this is a prediction, okay, that in Kali Yuga, every householder will follow this path influenced by the defects of Kali. So now this Rishabha, he accepted sannyas ashram, detached from worldly enticements, and he abandoned his house, and then he started preaching this path of Jainism, which drives mankind to Naraka, to hell. Rishabha is a founder of the faith of Jainism and is worshipped as the first Tirthankara. The first Tirthankara, in Jainism, there are all these Tirthankaras, the realized saints. In fact, in their temples, you have lots of these, um, um, what do we call that? Canopies, kind of, we call it kind of, on top of the temple where there is a gopuram. They have so many gopurams in each Jain temple. You see, there will be many of them. So those are all representing each of these Tirthankaras. They represent these Tirthankaras. They all have their own names. The word Tirthankara signifies the founder of a Tirtha, which means a formidable passage across the sea of births and deaths called samsara. So that is the Tirthankaras. They find, even though they are all Jains, means they have an individual path. Like, for example, as I told you, this particular person would throw stones. So if all his disciples follow that path of keeping the deer away from people, or throwing stones, or resorting to that path of practice of sadhana, yogic sadhana, then they are the followers. So that is a tirtha. So it becomes a tirthankara, the founder of that tirtha, that particular path. So that way, Jains have many tirthankaras. Hmm? In fact, in one particular huge Jain temple, they may have representations of several tirthankaras. So this was what Rishabha founded, this Jainism, and he was the first tirthankara of that. Now there is a story about this Rishabha, saying that Rishabha did tapas in the forest for many years. Hmm? And the mountain peak uh, on which he performed this tapas was named as Rishabhakuta. Rishabhakuta, the sage who wished to observe strict silence, did not like the presence of strangers and visitors. So in this, he went and did tapas in this Rishabhakuta after assuming after getting sannyasa, and he didn't like people or visitors coming that side, and he wished to observe strict silence. So he pronounced a curse. So what he did, he pronounced a curse that the mountain should drop boulders on anyone who ventured to come there. Now see, this yogis, when you develop yogic powers, you get all sorts of powers. So he did a curse that anybody who came near that Rishabhakuta, boulders would fall from the mountain on them. So once he ordered the wind to blow without noise as it passed by the side of the mountain, he declared that anyone who made noise in Rishabhakuta would be struck with thunder. A place of holy waters came into existence there. This is given in the Mahabharata, Aranya Parva. So the power of Rishabha's yaga, Rishabha did a penance to Shiva, right? So so there is also another story later on. Later on he founded the rule, according to the rules of Anaprastha Ashrama, he conducted yagas as per the Shastras. He became so, how he ended, means how his life ended was he did tapas, and he became so lean and thin, and he just reduced to bones. And finally, he renounced the body. So, and he went, putting a pebble into his mouth. Putting a pebble in his mouth, he went about in the forest to renounce his body. In the course of his wandering, a wild fire broke out in which his body was burnt. So Shiva Purana mentions this death of Rishabha, and then he attained Shiva Loka. So this was the Rishabha story, who was the son of Agnidhara, who born from the Yagna Kunda. Now he had 100 sons, out of which the eldest son was Bharata. Bharata is the name, and then he started ruling. When Rishabha went to the forest, Bharata started ruling, and it is after name of Bharata that the India's name is, that this continent is called Bharatavarsha. Bharatavarsha. And that is the same, Bharatavarsha is mentioned in the Mahabharata. So this Bharata, he did a lot of penance. He ruled the kingdom, of course, in a very dharmic way after putting Rishabha in the this and not imprisoning him and all, and then finally sending him to the forest. He himself did a lot of penance, and after he became means after he one second. I think I missed one chapter. I just yes. I just I turned the pages rapidly. I went one chapter forward. So Bharata, he what he did, he handed over the kingdom to his sons, and he went to the forest to Pulaha the ashram for penance. And there he was well versed with all the dharmas, and he stayed in the Shaligrama ashram. He meditated on Vishnu, did sacrifices on the banks of a river, constructed a hut, he did yagnas, yagas, and and one day when and lived peacefully there in a very secluded place, making a place for himself, and he was doing penance. One day he heard a roar of a lion. He was staying near a riverside. He heard the roar of a lion. At that time, near his ashram, the Shaligrama ashram, there was a deer. That deer was pregnant. Okay, a pregnant doe. And then but hearing that roar of the lion, she got so frightened, she jumped into the river. And when she jumped into the river, she had a miscarriage. Then that fawn got delivered inside the river. Poor thing, that was so struggling so much. It was seeing that suffering. Bharata Rishi, even though he was a Rishi, he had become detached and everything. Still, he felt drawn to that suffering of that deer. So he took of that fawn. Deer died, of course. So he brought the fawn out and started taking care of the fawn. Slowly, that child deer started growing, and because of feeding that the fawn, and then taking care of it and everything, he started developing an affection to that fawn. Slowly his affection grew so much that um, he couldn't think of anything else except that deer. One day while he was sitting in the penance, suddenly this deer disappeared. Suddenly it just ran away somewhere into the forest, and it mixed up with some group of deers, and it went away on its own. And this Rishi, Bharata Rishi, he just couldn't take his mind off that. He went in search of that deer, but he couldn't find it. And he was so sore, he was grief stricken. And in that sorrow, thinking of that deer, he died. Okay, just grief stricken, he died of sorrow. And in that agony, he died. And since he was constantly thinking of that deer, in his next birth, he was born as a deer. He got birth as a deer. When I was in somewhere in just in my 20s, I had read one. I had come across an astrology book. In that it was in Hindi, and naturally, Hindi books take a little time to read for me, being more comfortable with English. So, and in the first few pages itself, it was written, a man, when he's constantly thinking of women, in the next birth, he's born as a woman. Similarly, girls, when they constantly think of boys, means, or I mean, woman thinks of constantly thinks of men. In their next birth, they are born as men. Okay, so that is a natural, you can say, modification that happens when you take a next birth. So that is why many times when we are born very quickly in succession, they say the daughter gets born as a husband of, I mean, the husband who died gets born as their own as a grandson or granddaughter, and then it means they say it is said, we don't know how far that is true, but then this gender change also happens. So I was so intrigued. I mean, I was so shocked by that. I didn't read that book anymore. It is still there. That book is still there. I've not yet picked up that book. But then when you read this, you say, yes, there is some truth to that. So it must be true. So I have to still read that book. I have not read that book. But here now, this Bharata was born as a deer. Okay. Now, with all the limitations of a deer. So imagine a yogi having attained the state of the samadhi and all that, and then being born as an animal. But one thing was that because he had done so much of yogic sadhana, he had, as a deer also, he remembered. He remembered what he was in his previous life and how he had died and how he has become this deer. That knowledge came with him. But since he had a deer, he couldn't speak. He couldn't. At the most, he would be maybe shouting like a deer or whatever that is called, crying like a deer. Then he couldn't express anything. Neither could he do anything of a normal human being. Means read or write or say or do anything. He had to wander around like an animal. So one day in that, he was naturally, it is a very painful thing to be trapped in the body of an animal, right? I'm just wondering, today's people do so much of dog petting, you know. Everybody has a pet dog. They don't have any relation with human beings. I don't know, we may have a whole generation of dogs in the next, you know, this whole earth may be inhabited by dogs. Anyway, and then they say that dogs have started behaving like human beings. So then, quite possibly, it is the previous generation who was born as dogs. We never know if the dogs are behaving like so much like they are able to understand human emotions and all that. It may be a human being trapped in the body of a dog. Okay, so here he was aware that he was that realized soul. So he in that he wanders and comes to the Pulaha's ashram, sage Pulaha. Pulaha was another mind-born son of Brahmadeva. So and there were munis where he went to the ashram and he found that he was in one corner observing everything. He could see munis bowing to Pulaha. And then one day it so happened that Brahmadeva himself came to the ashram of this Pulaha, sage Pulaha. So Pulaha asked him, of course, he received Brahmadeva, performed his puja, wiped, did Pada Sevanam, gave him an asan to sit and all. And then with great respect and reverence, he says, I'm feeling very sad still. I have done everything I'm doing so much of yajna yagas, and still I feel very sad in this ashram. What is the reason for this sorrow? Why all the human beings also are so unhappy? Why they have to suffer? Why is there a sorrow in life? How can the human beings who desire liberation be relieved from sorrow? So Mudgalacharya is telling the story to Daksha Prajapati. So he says, the Brahmadeva is telling to this Pulaha, O son, you have asked an excellent question. I shall explain to you about the path which destroys all sins and bestows peace. So, if you have disrespected Vignaraja, beings in all three worlds suffer sorrow. They face obstacles and become fearful. So, all ignorance, all unhappiness is the cause of vignas. Vignas means obstacles. So Vigna, Ganesha is both Vigna Karta and Vigna Harta. Vigna Karta, he creates obstacles. Vigna Harta, he destroys the obstacles. So Ganesha himself, so if a person has done something wrong, Ganesha himself assumes the form of obstacles and comes in, assumes those forms, and the person has to undergo those obstacles. Then he realizes, oh, these are obstacles, so it has to be defeated. So then he realizes who's the cause, and then he starts worshipping Ganesha. Then Ganesha helps in removing those obstacles. So a sinner will be sent to a dreadful Naraka and similar lokas as a consequence of contrary deeds, which is against the karma. If you do any deeds against karma, you will face obstacles. So, but oh son, understand that even the deserving and devoted ascended to Swargalok. So even those people who have done a lot of good deeds also go to Swargaloka. But in Swargaloka also there is unhappiness. As we saw in Mudgalacharya, when Dutas came, they themselves told in Swargaloka also there are a lot of unhappiness. Which are the three types of unhappy? Mention three disadvantages of Swargaloka, Mudgalacharya had asked. So the Dutas from the Indraloka, they told first is you will get whatever karmas you do there, actions you do there, you won't get any punya there. That is, there you can only enjoy the actions, enjoy the benefits. But in the course of enjoyment, if when you're doing actions, those action doesn't result in punya or papa. So that is one baseful action, means that karma has no result at all. Secondly, there also the people are jealous of each other. Some people who have done a lot of merits may get a higher level of enjoyment. Like, for example, on earth also we find some people go to five-star hotel. Others will go to a small three-star hotel or just a restaurant for having food. Whereas somebody who has a lot of money will even have a cup of coffee in the Taj. So I remember the first time when I came to Pune in 1982, 1983, I wanted to have a cup of coffee in Blue Diamond. That Blue Diamond hotel was like a five-star hotel in Pune at that time. So I did have a cup of coffee there. So you want to have different levels of, so even if, so there is always a jealousy of people who same cup of coffee you could have had by the roadside. I mean, any tapri also. But then the coffee you have, the same coffee you have in a five-star hotel, it's you it's it creates a certain jealousy for the onlooker. Okay, the ambience and things like that. So even in Swargaloka, there will be this jealousies and of amongst people. So that cannot be avoided. That's the second defect. Thirdly, Kshine Punye Marteloke. Once your merits are over, you will be kicked out of Swargaloka. They will literally push you out of Swargaloka and you fall dhadar into the on the earth. So there is no escape for these three things. So these are the flaws of Swargaloka. So don't think that Swargaloka is very great. That is there also you will have the same thing. So then he says the devas residing there are always even the devas who reside there are always afraid of daityas. They are afraid of the asuras. So they are never out of fear. Even Indra is constantly fearful of his throne, that somebody will take away his throne. Anybody performing 100 Ashwamedha yagnas, they'll come to take his throne. So he's always afraid. Shaky. That chair is always shaky. The entire universe is subject to creation, but their only relief is is knowledge. The knowledge that this whole world is subject to creation and destruction. Where is the fear coming from? Fear is coming from the fear of death or destruction. That so if you have the knowledge that this is going to destroy, and then that this will come to an end and come to terms with it, then only you'll be fearless. You'll become fearless. Oh son, even after adopting sannyas from karmas, even if adopting sannyas from karmas grants emancipation, yet it is ridden with obstacles. I shall explain this now. To attain liberation, the individual soul is infatuated and trapped in four types of bodies or dehas. They are Jarayuja, born from the womb, Andaja, born from an egg, Swetaja, born from the moisture or even sweat, and Udbija, from a seed. That very same soul resorts to worship. That soul can be again born in any of these manner. Now imagine being born out of the sweat, or being born as a seed from the soil. The seed will burst. It will take time to germinate. Even we need conditions conducive for the germination of the seed. You may be put into a very fertile soil, but if there's no rain, then also that seed may not germinate. The very same soul resorts to, so that is why that soul resorts to worship. And then only it can get liberated from the bondage of the body. So the jiva, the soul, is always infatuated. Something is always better than this. What we are having, we are never satisfied with that. We always think that is, if that happens, I'll be happier. And it's always infatuated by something different, something other than what it is having at the moment. So this, to achieve this, O intellectual one, the Dehi is endowed with moha first. This is the first obstacle. So this very infatuation itself is an obstacle, because it awakens within you that this is the obstacle which has to be overcome. Yoga, in which the Deha and the Dehi are differentiated, imagines a different Brahma. In reality, when Brahma undergoes Swata Uttana, awakening of the self to creation, he creates another transformation into two forms. So, this yoga itself creates where the Deha and Dehi. Deha is the body, Dehi is the soul within the body. So when these differences are created, that itself leads to a further another step in creation. Okay, that is when Brahma is one. Okay, you may ascend to the level of Brahma, but as Brahma, Swatautan, when that Brahma gets a desire, he himself splits as Deha and Dehi. So there is a split in that into two forms to in order to conduct. So that itself becomes the cause for suffering. The practitioners of yoga who attain the Nirvikalpa Samadhi, who realize the glory of Brahma, that is, yesterday you were saying, Brahma, Aham Brahmasmi. You had a realization that I am Brahma, right? But still, in that state, okay, that is a momentary state, but yet he experiences the duality. You experience the duality that I am different from that Brahma, right? You still have that experience that I am that Hum Brahmasmi, but you are not that. When you came out of that, you realize that you are different from Brahma. Momentarily, you are in that state of Brahma. But when you come out of that state of Brahma, you realize your separateness from that. That duality is once again created. Even though you were in that nirvikalpa, that state, for that momentary state where you say, I am Brahma, Aham Brahmasmi, you are in a nirvikalpa samadhi. That is without any even imagination. There is no projection at all. So in that, there is non-dual state, Advaita. There is no non-dual state. So but once that is over, you get that vikalpa, an alternative comes into play. So this is an obstacle, Vigna. The Atma is considered as Brahma by the followers of Sankhya philosophy. In the Sankhya philosophy only, where they accept that I am different from that Brahma. That Brahma is separate, I am separate. So then you're safe. Means you don't get this every now and then slipping into something and then you get a dejection. Means you get disappointed. Oh, I was not that Brahma. So in that Sankhya, there is no harm in this. There's no harm in adopting that philosophy, because there will still be another form devoid of the Atma from their perspective. Hence, this belief in the Atma must be considered independently. So it is a philosophy where you accept the fact I am different, I am perishable, and Brahma is this imperishable. You can have moments of experience of that Brahma, but you accept that fact that you are perishable. Because this is the because we get identified with the body, which is perishable. Okay, that Atma, the experience of the Atma, that is still is imperishable. So that is a beauty of the Sankhya philosophy. It's a very good philosophy to be considered. So Sankhya philosophy is a strong dualist. Sankhya philosophy regards the universe as consisting of two realities: the Purusha, the consciousness, and Prakriti, that is this world, the universe, all these mountains, trees, rivers, everything. Jiva as a living being in that state in which Purusha is bonded to Prakriti in some form. So we have an individual and a consciousness in that individual. So there are dual aspects, which is the Sankhya philosophy. Sankhya denies the final cause of Ishvara. The Sankhya school considers the Vedas as the reliable source of knowledge. So even if there is some God, that Purusha or consciousness we say, but still Sankhya philosophy prefers to refer to Vedas for knowledge. We don't say, okay, I will meditate and reach that position or that experience of Brahma, and then I will get all knowledge. No. Because in that state, that knowledge is there, but then that still reliable source. We always look for evidence, no? We want hard facts. We want black and white, something written in black and white, something which is written in the form. So that is expressed in the Vedas. So still, even though people follow the Sankhya philosophy, still they will depend on the final confirmation. ये वेदास में लिखा हुआ है कि नहीं? Is there any pramanam in the Vedas? Then it is acceptable. Even though they say I experience Brahma and all, Vedas में कैसा लिखा हुआ है वैसा हुआ, that is there, then only it is Vedas. So that is why even Vishwamitra had to prove when he attained Brahma, state of Brahma, which Vasishtha was not accepting. He was still calling him a Raja Rishi only. He didn't accept him as a Brahma Rishi. So then finally, when Vishwamitra practiced the Gayatri mantra for how much? So many lakhs of years. No, lakhs of years he meditated on that Gayatri mantra, and then he became the embodiment of that mantra itself. He is a seer of that mantra, Gayatri mantra. So that then Brahmadeva comes and blesses, yes, you are a Brahmin. Then only Vasishtha also accepts him as a Brahmin. Otherwise, all the devas had started calling him Brahmin, but still Vasishtha was not accepting. So you need pramana from that is why Gayatri mantra is accepted as a part of Vedas. Gayatri mantra. And now that Veda pramanam is there. So, okay, if nowadays also I have known that those who do Shraddha ceremony and all, those who sit for Shraddha. See, in Shraddha ceremony, what is Shraddha ceremony? It is a ceremony for ancestors. Means those who have passed away. So when we do ceremony, that person who sits and whom we feed, whom we give food, he represents that dead person. So we feed as though we are feeding that dead person, is it your father, grandfather, whoever, as coming in this form and taking that food. So this man who sits there, whom we are feeding, this pujari, pandit, or that Brahmin whom we are feeding, he is a link to the Pitraloka, or whichever loka your ancestor is. So that is why these people who have this Shraddha, who perform the Shraddha ceremonies, they have this connection with the other worlds by way of their own. They chant this Gayatri mantra 1 lakh times before sitting there. That is a part of their training. Imagine if you sit for 1 hour also, you may at the most chant, I don't think even 108 Gayatris will happen. I know, like on that one day is there Avni Avattam, it is called. Okay, once a year. It happens on one Nariyal Purnima. I think this is the Nariyal Purnima, no? Yeah, so they do this Gayatri Mantra Japa 1008 times. Even the whole day it takes to do that 1008 times. Gayatri Japa. Sit in, no, and not Gayatri Japa. They do that Kamagarshi Mantra Darshi, that the another one mantra is there. So that it takes quite a few hours do. So you can't do 1 lakh. I mean, it will take years to do that. Years of sadhana, and then you become eligible, or you develop that siddhi of being able to communicate with other realms. You are talking of dimensions, no? Being able to connect with those dimensions, and then such people, they don't talk also much. They won't even utter a word from that. They say it will become Veda Vakyam, it will become real. So they won't talk also. They will be very careful in what they say. So these are all certain very intricate things of sadhana. So there's no doubt Sankhya Brahma is a primordial seed for Utthana, that is for evolution, but still they have the Vedic Veda Vakya as Pramana. These other siddhis you develop. Yes. So the same Brahma is the originator and also not the originator. The yogis do not acknowledge the philosophy as decission. Even though they practice yoga and all yogic siddhis and all, still only Veda Pramana is considered as knowledge. That is why. Okay, so here we will halt in this discussion. We'll continue. This chapter is not yet over. This is where Brahmadeva himself is explaining to Pulaha, his son, and where this deer, Bharata Rishi, who is in the form of a deer, is listening. Okay, that is how he is going to get moksha, that knowledge. So, so as a deer, his sadhana is not gone. The sadhana, whatever the growth that has happened in the previous lifetime, still is there, and even though his body is in the form of a deer. So you have a different physical body because of your attachment. So whatever you get attached to, you will be born as that. So be careful where you put your love bites,
It is dangerous to get attached also.
Because energy flows where attention goes. So your attention goes into that particular yoni, means that yoni means that species, the species of or that structural body structure. So where attention energy flows, where that attention, and your body is full of energy. Your soul is energy. Your soul is surrounded by a capsule. I told you when the in the very first class, when the soul goes out of the body, it takes this entire 7 chakras, the 7 energy centers, that forms as a covering, like a capsule surrounding the soul, and that goes out. So that energy is the one which is surrounding that, which attracts the next birth. So if you have that energy full of this attraction to some other species, to some other thing, it will get attracted to that. See, this is the law of attraction. Yeah, we are studying the law of attraction uh, as a way of manifesting things in this life. You want to attain the position of a CEO, or you want a house, you want to manifest a house. You attract that, so you get a house because your energy is flowing into that house, to the imagination of a house, and you attract all materials which is required for that house. The same thing will manifest towards anything in life. Okay.
Sometimes I tell my wife,
Huh.
the next birth, you will be my husband. I'll be your wife.
Exactly. I told you, no, you meditate on someone else, you will become that. So you will become a female in the next birth. She will
When I
become
get
a
angry,
male.
I tell that. when I get angry with her, with what if she's doing something which I detest, then I tell her,
Don't
see.
worry, it may turn out to be true also. Assured.
Then she says, no, no, I'll not marry you for the rest of my next generations. I don't want to tolerate a man like you. She is, like peaceful. She's a quiet lady. She won't talk much. When she talks, she will talk sense. She will not talk rubbish like me. Whatever I want to say, whatever is in my mind, I'd speak out. I don't keep anything inside. But she's not like that. She'll be choosy what to say and how much to tolerate. She'll be like, oh, go away. Don't enter my room now. Then I feel that that's the limit. I should not go beyond this.
Hmm.
That photographs I sent to my sisters.
I did receive.
Just see.
Just
What
now you said.
yeah.
Okay. Okay, I'll see. Okay,
Yesterday I
let's
went to my
meditate for
sister's
a few
place.
minutes.
Uh,
How many minutes we have now? We have about 15, 20 minutes. No, yeah. So we'll meditate for a few minutes on all these thoughts which we gathered in this today's Mudgal Puran. Bring all your attention to yourself. Bring the mind in the body. Where is the mind? Actually, the mind does not exist. It's the brain that exists. The physical brain, the cerebellum. But the mind itself is floating. It's tied to you through your willpower. You hold on to those thoughts of the mind by your own Ichha Shakti, your desire, a desire that is a milder form of willpower. When you exert a certain force to that desire, it becomes a will. You wish that. So willfully bring that mind to yourself. From all the thoughts wandering around. What is it that I truly wish for? What is it that drives me? Who is in control? What is it around which all my actions are geared to? How do I use or spend all my energies to attain what? Towards what activity? Towards what aim or goal? Is it one goal or are they many? How many? from morning till night. Where do we spend our energies? Remember, your energy is your money bank. Money in the bank may come or go, but your energy is in your hands. You have full control over the direction of the flow of that energy. Physical energy, mental energy, intellectual energy, and if you have access to spiritual energy. Can a life day, can a day in your life where all you put your energies, which can be unplugged and replugged, because focused energy will help you in attaining your goals. When you have an injury on your body, constantly your attention goes there. All the energies of the body is also directed towards healing of that wounded area. Imagine one tooth has fallen down. Your tongue will be constantly going to that gap throughout the day. Even if there is a toothache, every moment your attention is drawn there. All the energies, even mind doesn't work. Energy goes where attention goes. Similarly, where you put your attention, you can draw the energies there. And when we have to focus on one thing or a few things, we will have to withdraw the energies from some other things. Quite obvious, isn't it? If you have a function at home, you even take a leave from office. All your efforts are towards one thing that needs immediate attention. So, in the larger scheme of things, where all your attention is flowing, in which direction, how you can conserve the energies for optimum utilization. It depends on what your goal is. What do you want to achieve in the next 5 years? All your energies are put there in that direction. But remember, everything else will be neglected. So see if it's worth it. How worthy your focus is. Because what you focus expands. For an analogy, you can take the Indian elections, which is the hot topic of the day. The focus is on winning elections in the next, wherever it is, all your energies will be put there. If that winning it is exclusively focused, even developments will take a second seat or no seat at all. भाड़ जाए, भाड़ में जाए. That winning is the only criteria which we see it so evident. Now bring that same thing to your life. See where is the energy is leaking. That's preventing you from attaining your goal, which is shifting from your focus. Sometimes we are blinded by our own focus. We can't see our own blind spots. We are blinded by our focus, wrong focus. Then somebody else will have to point it out. That's why we go to a doctor, to a psychologist, to a consultant who is able to look at it differently. That's called throwing the light on an issue, on an unresolved issue, an issue that is facing the wall. That brings a shift in focus. It could be a 180-degree shift, which might bring a 360-degree change. Energy goes where attention goes. As Bharata focused on a deer, from a human being to a deer, shift in focus from inside to outside resulted in that outside becoming his inside as well, his total being in the next lifetime. So, moment to moment presence, be in the presence, in the moment, full of awareness and attention, will know where your focus is in the moment. I shall think about it later. Doesn't happen. It is this moment that's in your hands. Be present and vigilant all the time. Slowly bring your attention to yourself. Wriggle your fingers and toes. Rub your hands together. Cup your palms. Place it on the eyes. Gently rubbing your face. Open your eyes.